It's about creating great products.
Deal with and cope with failure. Ideas of everything.
Entrepreneurship is about taking risk.
Digital, it is the future.
Passion, enthusiasm and creativity, it's the key thing.
So welcome to Channel 4. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Jo Taylor. I'm Head of Learning and For Talent. What I would say about Channel 4 and our talent strategy, it's based on three main pillars. So the first is talent. How do we recruit, how do we retain, how do we develop the best talent, both internally for the organisation, but also for the independent production sector. Also, the second point is diversity. So diversity of thought, opinion, content, ideas. The lifeblood, ultimately, of creative organisations is the content that we provide, whether that's online or on screen. And the third is leadership.
How do you get the go-to-market right? How do you find that first customer who's in enough pain, is prepared to take risk on you, because they've got to take risk if they're going to be customer number one, and work with you through building the product?
When you're sort of stepping out and saying, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, are you ever afraid? Because entrepreneurs always seem to be exuding confidence and I know exactly what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting thing. I always had a habit of telling and pitching the idea for whatever business we were starting to enough people. Number one, to get people's feedback. There's nothing substitutes pitching an idea and listening really hard to what people say as you evolve it. But you also find that you've committed yourself to doing it by pitching it to so many people. So it's my own little way of overcoming the fear of kind of taking that first step into the chasm. But yeah, pitching the idea to enough people. But yeah, it's terrifying starting these things in some ways, but you know, that's the same as the excitement.
When old people used to talk about the media, it was mainly broadcasters and publishers and newspapers, yeah, the media. But I think it's more creative industries. It's about film, music, program ideas, content. It's about entertainment. It's about special effects, animation. And that is our business in the UK. I'm living these days on the money side, and the debacle is like, oh, how can we turn the UK into Silicon Valley? And I always say, we're never going to do that. But what do we have to do that when we have this incredible talent to create fantastic content? For me, entrepreneurship has nothing to do with what it means in the US. In the US, it's about building companies. And for me, it's about creating great products that people want to buy. That is entrepreneurship. It's not about building companies. There's a huge thing about, 50 employees, 200, who cares? I can rock the world with a small studio of 15 people and win Oscars. Hey. And we do that already. It's about doing it better, doing it smarter, and, you know, selling it to the world.
I think whatever business you're in, the first thing to do in terms of a tip is find a mentor. If you haven't already, just find a mentor or 2 mentors or 3 mentors, because they can just help you. Their experience, their contacts, their networks, all of those things can help attract finance and people who can help you. So that's really useful.
A good mentor is everything. And again, I think that's something in the UK we need to put more structure around getting not just mentors when you start business, but mentors all the way in school, you know, and having someone that kid can say, I've got an idea, or I want to be a footballer, or I want to go to the, and allowing us to keep those dreams alive. And I think one thing in the UK, unfortunately, and just your experience, our culture sometimes kills dreams too early. And I think a mentor can keep them alive.
I'm too old to have had one in the time I needed it, but over and over again, it's recommended by so many that have found success that it was one of the key reasons why they actually avoided making some of the mistakes they could have easily fallen into. But it also keeps you going. You know, you have to dig deep as an entrepreneur to keep going, to keep the faith. You've got to go through a lot of sacrifice. There's a lot of time burn going on. It's hurting your family. There's, keeping the money flowing, all of those things at those early stages. So you need somebody to help you get to that point. In the UK, there's a very good website, horsesmouth.co.uk, if anybody's been there. Yes. Set up by an ex-agency head. And it's run as a charity.
If you think about who your world's best mentor could be for you and your business, nothing to stop you writing to them and contacting them and asking them. And I think you would be surprised at how much successful people want to give back to people who are up and coming.
I think the important thing is talk to people that can introduce you to key people, okay? And if you talk to investors, the first time, don't go and ask for the money. You say, hey, this is us, this is our project, this is what it is, and we just want your feedback. When you don't ask for money, people are more willing to look at you with some kindness.
Yeah. There was a guy who was chair of Channel 4 called Luke Johnson. He's written he's a serial entrepreneur, and he's written a fantastic book. And it's not online, but it's a real book. Oh my God. And it's called Startup. And it's a really useful, practical guide. And Luke's serial entrepreneur businesses were in the restaurant and food business. So he's not just talking about media, although he does talk about media as well. Very, very simple tips. Things like, if you're in a job and you want to start your business, don't jack your job in immediately, just go and moonlight, and you can start your business on the side. And once it's up and running, then you've sort of made the transition in a very safe way. You haven't, jacked your mortgage up or got into too much risk.
Entrepreneurship is about taking risk. And when you are setting up a business, if you were pitching something that you had in your hands today, you'd already done it, you wouldn't need the money to go and build it and so on. So you are inevitably holding up a piece of paper and saying, this is what I think I can do. Now, somebody might walk along and go, I don't think you can do that, I think you're lying. But you're selling what you're going to do, what the future could hold. And that's the challenge of getting the investment, is you're asking people to assess something, especially if it's very innovative and it hasn't been done before. They can't get out a spreadsheet and look at historical numbers and say, is it going to work? So nobody can really tell you whether it's true or it's going to be true. And the only other thing I'd say is, we talked about starting and getting started, your strategy and so on. I would definitely get started, pitch it to people, take feedback, because the only thing you know about your plan on day one is it's wrong, and it will evolve very quickly as you start going.
There's a general principle which is useful for entrepreneurs. Just be original in your idea. We're all individuals. We see a lot of ideas walking through the doors, say in the game sector, following in the wake of Moshi Monsters or things which have been successful in the past.
But to be a successful entrepreneur, you have to deal with and cope with failure. Failure seems a weird thing to focus on when you want to be an entrepreneur and be successful. But there are lots of studies that show that the more failures you have, the more statistically likely you are to succeed, because you'll learn something from it.
Yeah.
You definitely learn more through failure than you do through success. And every single time you get that rejection, as long as you say, here was my idea, and at the end of the session, ask them for the feedback and let them, really tell you openly and honestly what they didn't like and what suggestions they've got and what introductions they've made. Actually, when you follow up on those things and you see an improvement from the next time, that keeps you going. But after 100 times you finally get your money, it feels really good.
Yeah. Anything that you can leverage from what we have here and take it to other places is a great opportunity. But what I would say is, before you venture into a certain place, you have to get to know if it's going to work or not, because there's some reasons as to why they don't have it. And you have to always think, why wouldn't they have this thing? What cultural things am I missing?
Culturally or creatively, we operated in bubbles. So in other words, the UK had its own very distinctive look and feel, and the same with the US and same with Europe. And I remember going to conferences in the US, and it really was like going to another planet.
And you need to know how you're going to go into places with certain content or certain products. There's certain ways and products in the US that are never going to make it in Europe. That's not how we roll.
How you define success, and I guess that's such a personal thing, isn't it? I think you have to kind of find it in yourself. For me personally, success is It's not about trying to grow a multi-million-pound business. It's having money. You're getting money in from your business. So clearly, you prove that the model works. It's having time to spend with your family. It's having time to pursue your own interests. That's a very personal thing for me. So I don't think there's a definition of success. Say that I've got to go and grab that definition.
Success for me, I mean, I don't want people to join entrepreneurship immediately to money. A lot of people, it's a trigger of success, and yes, we want the money to sort itself out, but a lot of people can focus on building a company just to make money, and they lose sight of great product. And I think we mentioned that earlier. I mean, the second most valuable company in the world now is Apple, an iconic company, and I think they're the epitome of focusing on good product, and then success and money will come from that. So the other thing on success is your own measure of success. The second you decide you're not going to be in full-time work anymore and you're going to go and start a new business, you've already succeeded at one big hurdle yourself and taking that jump. So entrepreneurship isn't, I've got to a point and I've succeeded, I need a certificate. You'll have successes all the way through it.
It's hard. It's really, really hard work to get a new business off the ground. And there are lots of different forms of entrepreneurship, but the one thing I'd say is make sure you pick something you love doing. You really, really love doing, because when you have to pick yourself up from pitch number 50 that said no, or the product that didn't work, or the engineer that said they'd got something working and then it didn't work, or the customer who sees the demo of the product that you've spent the last 6 months building goes, actually, that's not what I want it purple, not green. All of those things are very, very difficult. And so two things. One is find something that you're really passionate about and you genuinely love. And I definitely wouldn't just equate that to money. Because you probably won't go the distance. And the second thing is culture. There's nothing more important than hiring a team of people around you that share that same passion for where you want to get to, whether it's 2 people or whether it's 50 people. And go for it. In terms of success, I think the best thing is when that team of people who have that shared vision and have taken risk to get there succeed. And for me, success is happy customers. So whatever product you're building, the only time you really know that you've cracked it is when customers come up to you and go, oh my God, I love your product.